Hello friends, in this video I'm going to show you how to use Angular and Angular Material to build your website. Angular is a framework supported by Google and it lets you build progressive web apps, mobile apps for iOS, Android and Windows environment. You can also use it to build desktop software for Windows, Mac and Linux machine. My goal for this tutorial is to show you how easy it is to build a great looking website using Angular and Angular Material tools. And in follow-up tutorials, I'll show you how to use Angular Universal and Angular SEO technologies for your social and search capabilities. So as you can see my screen, by end of this video, I'll be showing you how quickly you can build a great looking website. So for example, this is a website I created for my personal blogs. So on the left hand side, it has a very responsive layout. It has all the menu bars, very nice looking drop down, links, and at the right hand side, you can have the your social links out there, and you can include a nice footer out there. So I'll show you using Angular and Angular Material tools. You can build this great looking website in less than 10 minutes. So let's get started. So the first step to start building your website is I'm going to hit out to my GitHub repo. And as you can see, I created a new repository. It's Angular Material. In this repository, in the README guide, you can find all the installation instruction and all the necessary commands to get it started. But before you start, I want to mention one thing here, that this is a very simple website I'm going to build in this tutorial, and in the next follow-up tutorial I will be addressing more advanced topic like how to implement search engine optimization and server-side rendering using Angular Universal on the same website. So for this video, I'm just going to build a static website in less than 10 minutes. So first thing first, if you don't already have an Angular development environment set up, I want you to hit out to this link and set up your Angular development environment. But I assume you already have an Angular development environment, so let's get started. I want you to open the VS Code, okay? And even though you already have a installation, Angular development installation, I want you to say node-v. So this will quickly tell you that you already have a node version installed, npm-v. So you already have an npm version installed. Next thing I want to check is if you already have a successful Angular CLI version installation. So this will tell you if Angular CLI is set up correctly on your machine or not. So okay, as you can see, I have a Angular CLI 1.7.4 version installed on my machine. Okay. Next step is you have to create a new app. Okay. So as you can see, I'm going to hit out my documents directory, and I want to quickly see there are only two apps out there. I want to create a new app, so ng new, and I want to call it, say, my website. Okay. Usually I do I prefer to install a routing module when I'm initiating a new app, and I'll show you why in a minute. So but first thing first, let's set up a new app, and I'm going to pause my recording here. And okay, so as you can see, ng new just installed a new version of my website in this. So next step I want to quickly do is do some cleanup task, and I'll go through this one by one. It's very simple. Again, it's optional, but I highly recommend you doing that. And the reason is, so take a look at the new website it created. So if you go under the src directory, click on this favicon ICO, and by default you will see Angular's favorite icon there. So I quickly want to replace this. I already have a copy of my favicon. src. Okay, great. Next thing I want to do is update your polyfill.json. Again, it's an optional step. but I highly recommend you doing that, especially because a lot of times you want your website to be supported by some older browser like Internet Explorer 10 and 11. um, and you want your animations. This is like I'm going to use Angular material, and I'm going to use couple of web animations, so I highly recommend you include these things in your website. Okay, so I'm going to uncomment this. I'm going to uncomment class list. I'm not going to use any reflect API, so I'm just going to leave this. Again, it's not going to work because you haven't installed the npm the save list.js, and you haven't installed the web animations.js. So the next step I'm going to do is install these two here. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it. You need to change on the polyfill. Last step I want you to do is update your git ignore file if you haven't already done that. So git ignore file, it tells you if you're using git repository to save your work, make sure that you update this file. And like you want your whole node modules folder or DST modules DST folder to be not included in your repo. So basically you have to quickly update your git ignore file and update your polyfill.ts. Okay, next step is go back to your angular cli.json. Okay, and as you can see, DST is your, whenever you're going to do a ng build prod, is going to write all your files to the DST directory. So in case I don't have a preference, but if you want, you can just rename to www. And as you can see, the assets is favicon.ico. I will leave this as is. And just want to make sure one more thing. So go back to your index.html and see it has included the favicon.ico. Okay. So one thing I want to change here, if you look at the prefix app, so what it does whenever you create a new component like footer component, is going to prefix that component selector with this. So if you create ngg create component footer component, so it's going to look like app-footer. So if you do not want that prefix, you have to get rid of this one. So I think that's pretty much it. Next step is one more thing before we forget. I have to install these two polyfills because I uncommented that. Otherwise, it's going to give you that error. Okay. Okay. Now, next step is you have to install the Angular materials. Okay. And the reason I haven't done that yet, I just want to do everything all together. So these are the three different packages, animations, CDK, sorry, two different packages you have to install to use Angular material. There's one more package you have to install, Hammer.js. This is for the gestures. So this is all the animations, all the, NPM packages you will need. What I'm going to do, I'm going to just quickly include everything in one npm install. Perfect. Okay. So basically that's all you need from the installation perspective. So I'm just going to Control C here, go back to my terminal window here, get inside this my website app, okay, and npm install. Again, I'm going to pause and wait for the. Okay, so now I have installed all the npm packages I need for the Angular material. There are a couple of more things I just need to configure before I get back to the work. So let's first quickly, I just want to copy this style sheet into my styles.css directory. Okay, so go to your styles.css file, sorry. Just include this import statement to styles.css. By default, I'm going to use this style sheet. Again, this is a pre-built theme delivered by Angular material. One more thing I want to add is the Google icons. Okay, Google material icons. So go to your index.html Okay. One more thing I want to mention here, if you are building an offline app, this is a website, so I'm just fine doing that. But if you're building an offline app, I would rather use the SVG icons instead of the material icons. But for the website, I think we are just doing fine. Okay. Okay, next thing I want to install a couple of things here. One is the routes.ts and other is the custom material module. So once I have this installed, I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to use it for. But for now, let's just quickly create an interface under your shared folder directory. One more thing. Okay, next thing I want to create a custom material modules. Again, you have the option, if you are using only certain Angular material components, you can always include those directly in your components. But if you are going to use it a lot, I recommend you should create a new custom material module. Okay, so first let's get started with the routes.ts. Again, I just want to quickly, you can always copy this um, from my GitHub repo. Okay. So what this routes.ts file is, it provides you the routes to your different links in your website. So for example, in my website, I know I'm going to have a section for about me, projects, blogs, videos. So basically, this is all links to those components. So for now, I don't have those things built yet. I'm going to comment all this. And later on, once we build this component, I'm just going to quickly uncomment these things from here. Okay, basically I'm going to uncomment everything from the routes.ts, but later on definitely we are going to use it. Okay. Now next thing is, you have to include this routes.ts file to your app.module. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly look at my app.module file here. So ports. Okay. Next thing, similar thing I want to do is include your custom material module. So I'll quickly include this here, and I'm going to replace the file content from my GitHub repository. So, but okay, so I just fixed the typo on my repo. So there was actually, it was missing a dot here. So basically, that's why it was not able to find the custom material module file there. So I just fixed that typo. I'm going to save this. I'm going to quickly head back to my routes.ts. As you can see, all my routes are being commented here. If I go to my custom material modules, so basically, I have included all the Angular material APIs here. So if you don't need all of them, you definitely want to get rid of this. But if you are going to make use of most of the material APIs here, I highly recommend you adding those things here. Quickly, I want to show you one more thing here. So there are some SVG icons. These are my offline SVG icons, or if I have downloaded those from the internet, I'm going to include those things here. So that's why I prefer to create a new custom material modules outside my component, so that whatever custom SVG icons I need to include, I can just include it over there and I can keep it consistent. So as you can see, I'm going to use 4 different SVG icons. Those are downloaded from internets. I'm going to quickly copy those. I already have those things here under my assets directory icons. Okay, so I'm going to copy all these three SVG icons to this to this directory. At this point, I think we have everything. All we need to do is ng serve, and we can start coding. So okay guys, now as you can see, I included all my SVG icons under assets icon directory here. So by default, the SVG files, as you can see, it looks like this. It's not an image. Um, okay. So next thing, I want to quickly hit the ng serve, and as you can see, ng serve is serving at localhost port number 4200. This is the default Angular delivered code, the boilerplate code. Now it's time to build a website. So as you can see, the output is going to look like this. I want to include a nice footer here, and I want to include a top navigation bar with these links, with these components. So, and at the right hand side, I want a favicon icons here. Sorry, not favicons. At the right hand side, I want to include the social link uh, in a menu here. So this is a menu bar, and this is the left hand navigation, and this is the top toolbar I want to include in my website. So once you have your requirements defined, next thing is you have to head back to your terminal window here, okay, and start generating these components you want to use. So again, I will go back to my GitHub repository, and I'm going to create all these components um, using Angular CLI. So first thing is I want to have a footer. So I will quickly generate a footer component here. So good thing with Angular, using Angular CLI, as you can see, it it does all the boilerplate stuff for you. So for example, if I go to this one, automatically understands that okay, I need to create this footer component inside the shared directory, and all the files are already in there. Not only that, if you at this point, if you go back to your app.module directory, you will see it also include the footer components, and it declare their components into your app.module file. So that's why, whenever you're generating new components, I prefer using Angular CLI. Okay. Now let's quickly go back to this website. As I mentioned, I will also need a couple of more components like blogs, videos, um, and home, about me. So these are the three different components I will use. Um, so as you can see, if I go back to my GitHub repo, okay, I'm going to serve my application here. So now just my ng server started a web server at 4240 at port 4200. So if I refresh this, you will see the footer works. So that means it's already included a footer .html to my app. Similarly, as you can see in my website, my objective is to include these many components like blogs, projects, and about me. What I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly create those components using Angular CLI like this, but this time I don't want them under shared directory. What I'm going to do, I want about us. Okay. Similarly, I will do for blogs, videos, and other components. Okay, now as you can see, Angular has created all of this about us, blogs, videos, and I think I need one more. It's called projects. all these components and their all the boilerplate code for all of these components already. Now I'm going to head back to my routes.ts file, and now it's time to enable all those routes. So basically, as you can see, I added two extra routes here. Um, the one is, as you can see, the default one. So by default, like everything will be redirected to about us component, and if there is no match for a component, that means a star star, it will be redirected to the same about us component. So I have all my components ready. Um, if I go back and hit ng serve again, it's going to serve my application, but this time is going my it has all my components already. Okay, so as you can see, my NZ service again serving my app to the local host 4200, and by default, if I just go to the 4200, it should redirect it back to me to about us, and as you can see, and it's displaying that about us works too. So basically, I have all my components what I need. I have everything set up now. Next step, what I'm going to do, just to save you some time, all of these components, basically, I will go back to my GitHub repository and show you quickly. Um, None of my component has any logic, because as in the started of this tutorial I told you, this is a very static simple websites I'm building. There's not much logic to it. So as you can see, this is the boilerplate code and there's no change on this one. I'm not going to spend any time on this. um, as you can see, everything is like, same. The only thing is this basic HTML. So for example, in my videos link, I want to show all of these YouTube videos to my video space. So just to save you some time, this is a very basic HTML I've written. There is no logic anywhere. So I'm just going to copy this here and go back to my videos.html file. Okay, and I'm going to replace this text with this. Um, this is just to save the time. And I'm going to do the same thing for everything else, and let's see how my code works here. So videos is done. Let me go back to projects section, go to the projects.component.html, copy everything, replace it to projects.component.html. Let's go to blogs. So blogs is a little bit different, and I'll show you why. So in this blogs.html, I have included more than one blog, and let me show you how the blocks is working. So suppose there are three different blocks I have written. So as you can see, if I go to the first block, I have um, I'm passing a parameters to this blocks. So it's telling you, okay, I want to look at the blocks component, but I just want to look at the first one. So if I go to the second parameter, so this time is, as you notice, the URL has changed. This time I want to look at the same blocks component, but I want to look at the Angular dev environment here. So I'll show you into the code what how it is doing that. So as you can see, blocks.component.ts. Let me just quickly replace this and you will understand exactly what I'm doing here. It's very simple code. Again, I can walk you through this code. Let me just quickly replace this. Okay. See, as you can see, is the same. The only difference is I am subscribing to the route parameters. So if I go back to my routes.ts file here, for the blocks component, you can see I'm passing a parameter here. So whatever ID I'm passing to the parameters, this ID will be subscribed inside that blocks.component.ts. So as you can see, my router will catch to this one, and whatever this ID is, it gets from the URL, is going to set up that block ID variable to this variable. So now how this block ID variable is used inside the HTML, very simple logic again, is saying if block ID equals to Angular material, then show this block. And if the blog ID is something else like GitHub tutorial, is going to show you the other blog. So it's very simple logic, no rocket science here. Um, okay guys, so I just finished all copy pasting all the individual components. I just want to quickly show you. So if you're looking at the project.component.html, so it's a very simple basic HTML. There is no intelligence code here. The only code I've included is inside this blocks.components.ts, which I already talked about. Basically, all it's doing catching the parameters from the get action on URL and passing it to the component.html file. This one file I want to review. Let's go back to the app.component.html file. So this is where all my majority of my code is. Um, so as you can see in the first block, I included a toolbar. If you just if you open Angular Material website, you will find all the boilerplate code over there. So for example, if you want to use a toolbar, so if I go back here and if I click on this toolbar, so there are a few examples. For example, I want to pick this third line. I want to make this as my toolbar. What you need to do here, copy the CSS code, all you need, and copy this over to your app.component.ts. So what I did here, as you can see, if you go to app.component.ts, I copy app.component.css and I copied this CSS style there. Same thing, the TS, as you can see, is a basic boilerplate code. There's no logic here, so I'm just ignoring this. Next thing is HTML. So I'm only interested in this third line. What I'm going to do, I just copy paste this code here and get rid of the first line and second line, and I only need this line, so that's what I did here. So as you can see, my toolbar is very simple. The first thing I want to include is a button here. So this is the button, and again there are too many buttons, different layouts of buttons provided by the Angular Material website. So let's quickly go back to that button here. As you can see, I like this button, mini fab button. They call it mini fab button. Again, you go to the code. So all you need to do is copy paste this thing. So button mat mini fab basic. That's all basically I'm doing here, and I'm going to include a tooltip here. So what tooltip does, if you hover your mouse over this one, so you will see a tooltip. So it's basically a very good idea to include tooltips on all of your material components. So basically that's what this whole mat tooltip is doing. And this time I want to include an SVG icon. So remember I talked about SVG icons. So this is where you can pass your SVG icons here, more vertical .svg, and that's what I'm passing it here. You can always use the delivered Google material icon like home. So in that case, you don't need to put SVG icons here, just click the home here. So you see the difference, this is the more vertical, this is an SVG icons coming from a local repository. That means like I've included this SVG files in my assets directory, but this is what's coming from Google material icon. So basically there's no difference. As you can see, this this is the SVG icon, okay, and this is home. So next thing I want to implement is like see that basic how it's shows and hide your navigation here. This is your left hand navigation. So again, go back to the Angular Material website, hit to your navigation, look at the side nav code. So again, toggle side nav, and it shows your site navigation. So it's very simple code. Again, all I'm doing is copy pasting this code here, and I'm just like readjusting the text with the text I want to use for my website. Basically, that's pretty much it. There's no rocket science here. There's no extra code I have written. So this is how you include a toolbar at your app component. Second thing I want to do, suppose I want this to open a menu icon here. So look at this one. So I want to add a menu on this last icon here. So this is at the right hand side. You see that person add. So this is where I want all my social links to come to. So I have what I decided, if I click on this one, I want to open a menu here like this. So I want to include a menu item here. It's very simple. Go to this menu and just copy paste the code here. That's it. Very simple. So this is the advantage of using all of your material icons. Um, this is the advantage of using all of your material icons inside a material module. So this is the reason I included all of the material modules into this. I have imported all of these packages into at one place. And you can always, suppose you are not using a stepper, get rid of this one. You are not using a snack bar, you can get rid of this one. And if you want to learn more about these packages, go to material.angular.io, look into the repository, and you can always copy paste the code from there. Okay, so as you can see, I included a menu item here. Inside the menu, I want the 4 social login, social plugin to social links to appear. So what I did, I created 4 different, as you can see. The first one is Facebook, LinkedIn, GitHub, and then email. Okay. And these are all linked to those social websites. Okay. So basically, that's all it is doing. Okay. Next thing, as you can see, on the left hand side navigation, basically everything is like this layout. I just borrowed it from their left hand navigation, and as you can see, I am using an expansion panel. So expansion panel, as you see, like it gives you a very nice feature. Suppose you have too many navigations on your left hand side and you want to group them together. So it's a good idea. Like for example, I have 50 blocks, for example. So if I put all the 50 links here, user will have to scroll a lot to get to the bottom of it. So that's the reason I included this expansion panel, and I put all my blocks inside this blocks panel. So, and again, if you want to use the expansion panel, just go to the material.angular.io, hit out to the expansion panel, and copy the code from there. So that's pretty much it, guys. I think it's very simple to Angular Material Framework. This is a very good, nice documentation you can use to build your website. It's very quick. In the next following of videos, I'm going to show you how to use advanced technologies like Angular Universal or Angular Search Engine Optimization. So stay tuned. Thank you.